1453 was not just a year on a calendar. It was a turning point in human history. For centuries, Constantinople had stood as an untouchable city. Its massive walls, legendary defenses, and strategic position had made it seem invincible. But in 1453, that illusion came to an end. The fate of the city began long before the first cannon was fired. It began with the birth of a child. In the year Sultan Mehmed was born, people spoke of signs. The land produced more than ever before. Trees bent beneath the weight of their fruit. Animals gave birth to twins. And in the night sky, a comet appeared, a symbol that filled the people of Constantinople with fear. This was a city that believed in prophecies, and many believed its time was coming. From an early age, Mehmed was different, quiet, observant, intense. While other princes trained with swords, he studied history, Rome, Byzantium, the rise and fall of empires. He wanted to know not just how cities were conquered, but why they eventually fell. Even as a boy, Mehmed understood one truth. No wall, no matter how strong, lasts forever. When his father, Sultan Mehmed II, abdicated the throne, Mehmed was only 12 years old. Inside the Ottoman court, doubt spread quickly. Could a child rule an empire? Across Europe, the answer was clear. They saw weakness. Crusader ambitions returned. Byzantine plots intensified. And soon, Murad II was forced back onto the throne. Mehmed was sent away to Manisa. But this was not defeat. It was preparation. In Manisa, Mehmed transformed himself. He studied mathematics, engineering, ballistics, and the art of war. He analyzed the walls of Constantinople, their thickness, their angles, their weaknesses. He learned the language of his enemy. He studied their faith, their culture, their fears. Because Mehmed believed something revolutionary. To conquer a city, you must first understand it. When Murad II died, Mehmed returned to the throne, not as a child, but as a ruler. Calm, focused, determined. At first, he appeared peaceful. He sent messages of goodwill to Byzantium. Envoys traveled to European courts. But beneath the surface, a storm was forming. Then came the fortress. At the narrowest point of the Bosphorus, Mehmed ordered the construction of Rumeli Fortress. To Byzantium, it was a declaration of war. As the massive stone walls rose, Constantinople's isolation deepened. Aid from the Black Sea was now under Ottoman control. Byzantine envoys protested, they threatened, they pleaded. Mehmed did not move. This was not just a fortress, it was a lock on destiny. Still, Mehmed knew the truth. Constantinople would not fall unless its walls fell first. That is when a man named Urban arrived. An engineer, previously rejected by Byzantium, Urban stood before the Sultan. Mehmed's demand was simple and terrifying. Build a weapon that could break the walls of Constantinople. Urban worked day and night. Molten metal, towering flames, earth-shaking tests. The result was a cannon unlike anything the world had ever seen. Each time it fired, the ground trembled, and the ancient walls began to crack. In the spring of 1453, the Ottoman army marched. From the land, they surrounded the city. From the sea, their fleet filled the Marmara. Inside Constantinople, defenses were rushed into place. A massive chain was stretched across the Golden Horn. Latin mercenaries arrived. Giustiniani took command. The city held its breath. When the cannons began to fire, Constantinople shook. Walls that had stood for 1,000 years began to bleed stone and dust. Yet hope remained. The Golden Horn was sealed. The chain was believed unbreakable. Then, one night, everything changed. In complete silence, Ottoman ships were pulled onto land. Over greased wooden tracks, they were dragged across hills and lowered into the Golden Horn. At dawn, the Byzantines stared in disbelief. The Ottoman fleet was behind the chain. This was more than a military maneuver. It was psychological warfare. Days turned into weeks. The fighting grew brutal. Losses mounted on both sides. Fatigue spread through the Ottoman ranks. But Mehmed never wavered. Either I will take this city, he declared, or this city will take me. He walked the trenches with his soldiers. He shared their danger, and their resolve hardened. As the final days approached, Constantinople was gasping for survival. Sections of the walls collapsed. Defenses crumbled. Mehmed gave the final order. Prayers were whispered. Weapons were raised. Every man knew what was coming. On the morning of May 29th, the assault began. Wave after wave surged toward the walls. The fighting was savage, hand to hand, life against death. When Ulubatli Hassan, gravely wounded, planted the Ottoman banner atop the walls, there was no turning back. Emperor Constantine refused to flee. He put on his armor, drew his sword, and fell fighting in the streets of his city. Constantinople had fallen. When Mehmed entered the city, his first command was clear: stop the looting. Lives were protected. Property was secured. He entered Hagia Sophia and bowed in prayer. This was not revenge. It was responsibility. The city was now Istanbul, and Mehmed was now known to history as the conqueror. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more historical documentaries.